Skywatch Media News for the second week of April 2018. Planet X Nibiru has been a hot topic of discussions and debates for more than 3 decades. On one side, there are some physicists and space observers who believe that there's a Planet X threat to life on Earth. On the other side is NASA, which denies its existence today, even though they declared its discovery way back in 1982. The debate has gotten more serious recently when South African-based physicist Dr. Claudia Albers challenged NASA to prove their claims that Planet X does not exist. She recently questioned the statements made by NASA scientist Dr. David Morrison, who dismissed the theory and referred to it as a hoax. Dr. Albers claims to have witnessed dying stars that are part of the Planet X system that emit infrared light as seen in close-up images that are captured by NASA telescopic cameras on probes that were sent into space. According to Dr. Albers, these bodies are much denser than normal planets, since they have not been vaporized by the sun. She further states that Planet X is here and it is not alone, as there are many objects in the inner solar system that have been coming in towards the sun for years, which are thought to be planets of doom. Her claims suggest that these interstellar bodies make magnetic connections with the sun and create coronal holes. This, in future, can weaken the sun and create solar storms which will badly affect Earth, causing volcanoes and increased seismic activity. Her views on the existence of rogue planets are views that are not supported by the mainstream scientists, and yet they are held in esteem by supporters who are convinced that something is out there warping the solar system and affecting life on Earth. There is clearly something extraordinary happening here, but with the constant campaign of misinformation, the ability to grasp the truth becomes a difficult endeavor. Another theory shrouded in mystery for many years is the belief that the global elite have established an underground bunker below the Denver airport, a massive endeavor designed to protect the privileged from an anticipated apocalypse. The conspiracy surrounding the story concludes that a series of artifacts point to end times events. An indication can be found in the apocalyptic art that is scattered throughout the airport terminal. It can also be found in the design of the runway, which appears to be shaped in the form of a swastika. Outside of the terminal, there lies a satanic-looking red-eyed Mustang, a decade-in-the-making creation by the renowned sculptor Luis Jimenez. In 2006, while in the process of moving the 32-foot sculpture from his studio in New Mexico, a portion of it came loose and pinned the famous sculptor against a steel support, resulting in his fatal injuries. There are theories that surround the airport's links to a group called the New World Order, which came about after it was reported that the airport was dedicated to a commission called the New World Airport. All of these theories, based on personal observations, point to the probability that a tremendous underground bunker is located below the Denver airport. In order to see through all of this, you have to examine the missing evidence. The government has never sought to prove that the underground facility does not exist. Instead, they have remained silent on this subject. The airport was $2 billion over budget, and it was overbuilt, being twice the size of Manhattan. The airport wasn't a necessity since the city of Denver already had an airport closer to the metropolitan area. The reason for the budget overlap is believed to rest with the belief that buildings were being buried below the surface. Furthermore, there is a Masonic symbol on the airport plaque with the date of March 19, 1994, which numbers add up to 33, which is the highest level of Freemasonry. And so there is more fueling of speculation in this regard. Although there are satellite area views of the Denver airport, the images are not provided in close-up resolution. Theorists also believe that the so-called secret complex is connected to the nation's capital by high-speed train. There appears to be sufficient testimony that a massive city-like complex exists below the airport, which includes those of a security officer to the Secretary of State, who had escorted the secretary to the front of the facility, but he was ordered to remain outside the entrance because his security clearance was not high enough. To deny that the underground facility does not exist would be a mistake, and yet providing concrete proof could be risky. Regardless of what is seen and what may be known, the local media is reporting that Denver's Stapleton Airport was outdated and poorly designed, and that the tunnels in the new airport are used to move baggage and people. Denver airport officials state that the runway is shaped like a pinwheel. But is it? They also state that the Airport Commission is actually a group of local businesses and political figures, and they are not a New World organization. Reports about rogue planets and underground survival bunkers will continue to surface as long as there are those who question the authority and cast doubts. If you want to seek the truth encloaked in the controversy, then you have to spend time investigating all of the facts, those that already exist and those that may still be hidden. Some of our viewers who visit this channel and similar ones sincerely believe that the Earth is flat, that we are surrounded by an atmospheric dome. According to a survey conducted by YouGov, about 2% of Americans believe the Earth is flat. Furthermore, 52% of the respondents who are self-proclaimed flat earthers have acknowledged that their views are very religious, views that are based on biblical doctrine. Could there actually be any truth to the concept held by flat earthers that the Earth is a huge domed habitat under the firmament, what we call heaven, what some have called a dwelling place created for humans, rather than a global rock that is a small part of a vast dark universe? A rocket builder named Mike Hughes, who has proclaimed that he does not believe in science, launched a homemade rocket over the California desert as part of a mission to prove that the world is flat, and to also create a resurgence of the flat earth movement. He launched himself 1,900 feet into the air at a speed of 350 miles per hour. The failed launch was mostly vertical, and it lasted for about a minute from its liftoff to its rough landing, resulting in some minor injuries for the Rocketeer. Despite his misfortunes, Mad Mike Hughes, as he calls himself, is determined to further pursue his endeavors. He now plans to rocket himself some 52 miles into the atmosphere by the end of this year, in his crusade to prove that the Earth is flat. Although there are some who believe that the Earth is disc-shaped and that it is covered by a hemispherical atmosphere, prominent scientist Neil Tyson has shown how the Earth is in reality a globe. One of the more conventional ways is to look at the many photos of the Earth that have been taken from the International Space Station, which actually show the curvature of the Earth. There are also ways of determining the Earth's curvature from where we stand by watching a lunar eclipse. While the moon is sitting in the Earth's shadow, the Earth's round shape can clearly be seen while the moon is entering and leaving the eclipse. If the Earth was disc-shaped, then the eclipse would be seen in this form, which we know has never taken place. It sounds rather simplistic, but scientific facts are what they are, and it is hard to dispute them. Then there's the much more straightforward argument that if you watch a ship sail off, you'll eventually see it disappear into the horizon, and it would only disappear from view if it is moving on a round surface. What sailors noticed long ago was that on a clear and calm day, when the horizon is visible, a ship sailing away from view would appear as though it were sinking into the water. This was because the ship was being hidden by the curvature of the Earth. The sailors understood this because they knew that the Earth was round. The moral of this story is that it's difficult to provide well-documented scientific explanation that will convince any of our flat Earth friends that we actually live on a globe. If nothing else, it may help encourage viewers who are on the fence to try out the observations that have been highlighted here and to discover the results for themselves. There is one other thing that I would like to point out here. The religious anxiety over whether the Earth is flat or round seems to echo what happened back in the 17th century when Galileo challenged the geocentric model of the solar system, which depicted the sun revolving around the Earth. When faced with the evidence that the Earth was not the literal center of creation, the Catholic hierarchy attempted to suppress Galileo's observations for fears that it would cause their flock to lose faith. Here in the 21st century, it seems that the Flat Earth movement represents a lot of the same fears. Only this time, the controversy is with NASA and the belief that the space agency is intentionally misleading the public with false statements about the Earth's roundness. So there you have it. What is real depends on your perception of the truth, regardless of what science may show. Not everything on Earth is to our liking or what we would expect, as the people of Yosemite Valley discovered on April 6th, when a powerful Pineapple Express storm hit the region, the second atmospheric river event to engulf Northern California in the past 2 weeks. A deluge caused the Yosemite National Park to close when nearly 4 feet of water swamped the valley, affecting electrical and water systems while setting off a massive cleaning effort in its wake. A hailstorm of apocalyptic proportions rained down on Saudi Arabia on April 5th, killing hundreds of animals in the middle of the desert. A river of hail accumulated up to 27 inches in some places. In the fall of 2017, the British tabloids reported on the strange red skies that plunged London into darkness. The story was highlighted in a video which was published on October 19th of 2017. The strange phenomena that occurred across the UK on October 16th happened just as Hurricane Ophelia, the 10th storm of the 2017 hurricane season, was making landfall in the British Isles as a wind-driven storm. According to official reports, the storm carried vast amounts of smoke and debris from fires which were burning in Portugal and Spain, as well as dust particles from the Sahara, which enabled a unique viewing sky for British citizens. The result was that thousands of residents observed multiple objects near the sun on that day. This was the explanation given by London's Met Office. A significant amount of dust from wildfires across the Iberian Peninsula and from the Sahara was swept up by Hurricane Ophelia. It was transported across the British Isles, which created an optical illusion in the sky. Observers accepted their explanation as reasonable, void of any doubt on whether the explanation was credible. The media spin on the sky phenomenon in the UK was even more controversial than the explanation from the Met Office. The headline in the Sun's article dated October 16th poked fun of the anomaly, comparing it to the Star Wars saga depicting two suns, in which residents of the UK and Ireland must have felt as if they were living on another planet. Just like the explanation given by the Met Office, the Sun says it was only an illusion created by the sands of the Sahara. Other British media outlets soon jumped on the bandwagon, including BBC News, which blamed the two sun sighting on Hurricane Ophelia, scattering dust across Europe, which they claim happens at least once a year. But BBC went a little bit further in their explanation when they stated that the dust was causing a shorter wavelength, allowing blue light to be scattered and therefore creating the dark red skies on that day. If you follow this story about the red skies over Britain and the Ophelia connection, then you are bound to discover that the explanations given for this peculiar phenomena do not coincide. The Met Office indicated that the vast majority of the dust that caused this spectacle originated from the Iberian fires, but the tabloids indicated that the Saharan dust swept up by Ophelia was the primary cause. There is something else that casts doubt on the media's interpretation of events leading up to the sky phenomena. The British mainstream media said that Ophelia originated in the Azores as a hurricane, which then tracked northwards accompanied by warm air from the Sahara. That's their narrative. But other reports are refuting that claim. According to another news source, Ophelia did not originate in the tropics at all. It began as a decaying cold front over the North Atlantic in early October. When discussing a conflict of interest, then this story certainly fits the bill. This is where it becomes imperative to examine all of the evidence and determine who, if any, are telling the truth. A daunting task that requires thorough investigation. We could begin the process of solving the mystery by questioning the media moguls about how a subtropical storm that began in the North Atlantic could sweep up millions of particles of sand from the Saharan desert, carry it thousands of miles into northern Europe, and keep the dust suspended in the air prior to its entry into the British Isles. Truth be known, such a scenario is not possible, and yet the media wants us to believe in miracles. In an effort to validate their Saharan dust charade, BBC came up with a way to make their explanations seem more credible. Just convince the public that the red sky phenomena is caused by the scattering of blue light, allowing the longer wavelength red light to become the dominant force. By giving a more specific explanation, the public would buy their narrative and the media would be off the hook, at least for a time. Ophelia was a freak of nature. Its path across the British Isles caused hundreds of thousands of people to look up into the sky in awe, only to be told by suppressive means that it was all just a mirage, a fantasy out of Star Wars. There are clever people among the prominent in society. They practice the principle of deception. But their rewards are short-lived. The vision of what is coming will be given unto a chosen few, although at the expense of scorn and ridicule by those who lack the vision. Even so, you must continue to trust in your instincts and follow your conscience. Be steadfast in all that you do, and do not waver. Above all, keep looking to the sky, from which all things shall be manifest unto this world.